Alrighty, so I'm actually going to review the game that just finished a minute ago between the Houston Dynamo and Sporting KC before I review the second game of the conference semifinal in the Eastern Conference that happened yesterday. But in terms of this game, I would say that, out of the three conference semifinal I've watched so far, it was the most entertaining one, considered there were definitely a lot of chances for both of these teams. And the fact that the scoreline only ended 1-0 in favor of the Houston Dynamo was kind of surprising because I think that this was really one of those games where missed opportunity was plenty for both of these teams, and it really kind of comes down to who can at least show more of the clinical finish and had that one moment where they show the clinical finishing to score the goal to move on to the conference final. And in the end, it's the Houston Dynamo that were able to do so. And just like what we saw back in 2017, in their return to the playoffs for the first time in 2017, they put the trip to the Western Conference Final. Now, early on, Russell would hit it right to Clark, but Clark actually spilled this one, and he was very fortunate that he was able to collect on the second attempt because there was some Sporting KC player around the vicinity, and that could have easily been a disastrous start for the Houston Dynamo and also a disastrous start for Steve Clark that has had moments before where he has made some very bad goalkeeping howler in the playoffs. Though in the fifth minute, Quinones would pose it just wide from long range. I thought Houston had a lot of possession in the first couple of minutes. I mean, a lot of possession is an understatement, as I'll talk about in just a bit of how many possession that they have. It was quite insane. The fact that it was kind of one-way traffic with the way that Houston were dominating this game early on. Though, that being said, in the ninth minute, Melia did deny Quinones, but he did give up a rebound, which is something you usually don't see Tim Melia does, and he almost got punished here if it wasn't for Fontes blocking this shot off the line from Bear, who pounds on the rebound there. But as I said, his shot was blocked off the line by Fontes. The possession was 84-16 for Houston through 13 minutes. I mean, it's quite insane. The fact that Sporting KC, a team that is known for possession, be outpossessed 84-16. And in fact, I would say that this was kind of the opposite of what I thought it was going to happen as well. I thought, Sporting KC was going to have more of the possession than Houston, knowing that they're a team that has known to be on the transition. I would have thought that Sporting KC would be the one that dictate the game and Houston would like to sit back, but apparently that's not how it is. I mean, it feels like it was a reverse of how we saw in this one. And the other thing that I also saw early in this one is turnover, because some of these chances that were created wasn't really because of good buildup, and you also kind of saw in this game too, where the rust definitely shown for both of these teams. They kind of lack in terms of that final third quality in terms of building up. But what those chances were created was because of turnovers. And while we talk about the attack being a little bit rusty, the defense was definitely a little rusty in this game too, because yeah, turnover was a plenty in this game early on, and they seems to have an issue in terms of that, because in the 20th minute, Kinda had a shot that was deflected high after a bad turnover from Houston, and then in the 25th minute, Showy puts it high from long range, and guess what? That came off of another bad turnover from the Houston Dynamo, and I just thought at this point Houston was playing with a lot of fire in terms of turning the ball over. You do not want to turn the ball over against this lethal Sporting KC attack, and I just also thought that the opener could come from a turnover. With the way that most of the chances have kind of created from turnovers, it feels like it's only fitting that the opening goal was because of that. Little we know that of course was not the case, because after Herrera would cross it wide from long range, and he did not miss by much. I mean, Hector Herrera, when he's able to curl that ball from outside the box, yeah, if you're opposition, you're basically praying that that one goes wide. And fortunate for them, that one did go wide. But what is not fortunate for Sporting KC is them conceding the opening goal in the 38th minute, as Franco Escobar would score from Herrera to make it 1-0 in favor of the Dynamo. I mean, Franco Escobar has always known to be a big game player, especially in the playoff going back to his Atlanta United days, and he did it again here. And part of that has to do with Hector Herrera pretty much put this corner and put this cross right on the platter of Escobar, and Escobar was there to get there first. And yeah, just like that, the Houston Dynamo were leading 1-0 in this one. Though on the other end, they almost conceded because Clark had to deny Polito, and it actually fell right to Sharawi, which his shot was actually blocked off the line by Sevchenko. Now, Sharawi, he was animated after that shot was blocked off the line, because he felt like Sevchenko handballs it And this is where we get to the controversy in this game. And this is where I think Sporting KC fans maybe have a rights to be angry about this. And maybe this is not the first time that I'll mention in terms of doing these review for the conference semifinal where the opposition fans will feel like they got robbed because of bad refereeing call. Because as I'll talk about in the next review between FC Cincinnati versus the Philadelphia Union, boy, we're definitely going to talk about some controversial call, especially what happened late in that game that eventually won the game for FC Cincinnati. But going back to this one again, this is definitely a controversial one, and I will say that this one is definitely tough to call, mainly because I will say that the thing that it'll be interesting to see is whether or not if VR did look at that second angle, because they show two different angles. They show the first angle, which I didn't think that was clear and obvious. I mean, you could argue maybe it did hit Sevchenko head. Well, actually, they showed two angles in terms of that. Then a couple of minutes after, when this was over, they actually show another angle, and this was an angle where it's for the back of the goal, which I thought you can definitely see it more clearly there. And I gotta say, I mean, it definitely looked like that ball kind of hit the hand of Sevchenko. Now, obviously, the handball rule, it's been very debatable in terms of MLS and really in the world of soccer and the world of football. I mean, there is always that saying, what exactly is a handball nowadays, especially when that ball hit Sevchenko head. I mean, his hand was tucked in, but again, we have seen before where when that ball hits the hand of a defender, even though his hand is tucked in, they still call it penalties. And that in that play, I mean, again, it definitely looked like it clearly hits the hand of Sevchenko. It kind of hits right around this spot, right around the bicep area, and that yeah, again, it's one that you could definitely say could have easily gone the either way. And again, this is where I don't blame Sporting KC fans. Will be very upset about that, and especially with the way that if this game would have stayed 1-0, which we eventually it did, this is where unfortunately. This is going to be a play that is going to be talked about a lot, though. Again, this this call won't be maybe talk as much about as I'll mention later in the next game between Cincinnati and the Union. Now there was another call that was very controversial involving VAR. But that being said, no penalty was given. And before Sporting KC fans also say, well, why didn't the referee look at his monitor? They did go to VAR to check it. And I feel like maybe the referee could have looked in the monitor. And again, it's all about whether or not if they saw that angle where it was the camera face seeing back, toward his back, and that whether or not if VAR sees that. Because if VAR didn't see that, I can assure you that there's going to be some really big question that's going to be raised again. And this is where I really hope that we don't see these controversial VAR calls or bad calls that goes against a team that could end their season, and it could feel like we might be seeing that in this game and also in the game between Cincinnati and the Philadelphia Union. So yeah, again, no penalty was given. And then on the other end, Bossy would puts it high from long range, and then Karaskid just puts it wide from close range. And those two chances were big chances for Houston. And you just feel like, for the Dynamo, despite they've had a lot of chances, whether if they didn't no, will this come back to haunt them if they weren't up by more than one, or maybe made this 2 or 3-0 heading into halftime. But we do head to halftime with the Dynamo leading 1-0. In the second half, it kind of calmed down a little bit. Not much chances really generate in the start of the second half. In fact, there was no shot through the first 15 minutes of the second half. The first shot of the second half was actually a good one when Polito had some space here, but he puts it high from long range. I mean, Polito had some really good looks in this one, but as it is the case for Sporting KC in this game, and you can even say the same case for the Houston Dynamo, finishing was a problem for both of these teams. And then in the 62nd minute, Corey Bear was in on goal there, and he was trying to round Melia there, which again, with the caliber of Tim Melia, I feel like Corey Bear should have just struck that. I didn't think that he needed to try to round Melia and tapped it into the empty net, because that allowed Tim Melia to come off his line and gather that one relatively easily to cut that one out. Clark then denied Showery from close in the 69th minute, and I just kind of have a feeling, you feel like there could be one more goal in this game, but the question is who can get it, because both of these teams had some really big chances to either put this game away in the Houston Dynamo perspective, or for Sporting KC to tie this game up. Sevchenko would then puts it wide off the volley in the 79th minute, and then Polito tried to poke one into the back post, but he missed wide there. He was not happy the fact that there was no corner that was awarded, and I don't blame him because that definitely looked like it hit off of a Dynamo player last instead of Polito basically poked that one wide there. But in the 86th minute, Herrera would puts it wide as the flag went up, so even if Herrera scored, it wouldn't have counted. And then Polito would slice it just wide from close range. Again, these are some grade A chances for Alan Polito to get the opening going. For a guy that is the named the comeback player of the year and a guy that has been so lethal, it was very uncharacteristic to see him miss these opportunity. And again, you can maybe you can once again make the argument of the rust factor and also because there's been a long break, whether or not if the sharpness for all these players are just not there and they're basically suffering from that. But again, I just felt like this game was on a knife edge. Both of these teams was clearly pushing for this next crucial goal. Agata had a chance to do so. He had a chance to tie it from close range, but his shot was blocked by Mikael. And then on the other end, Aliou had a chance to end the game up, but this is Aliou Ibrahim we're talking about. It was a big save there from Tim Miller to rob him and at least keep Sporting KC momentarily in this game. But that's one that Ali Ibrahim should finish and one that he's very lucky. The fact that Sporting KC didn't equalize because that would have been a moment a lot of Houston fans will see as another big missed opportunity. I mean that there was a lot of that, but that's one that again, if you're Ali Ibrahim, I know he's been kind of snake bitten at time this season in terms of goal scoring. That's got to be in the back of the net to kill this game off. But fortunately for him, the Houston Dynamo does hold on to win 1-0 in this one. Shots in this one, 15 shots for the 12 that Sporting KC had. Both teams had 4 shots on goal. 8 shots off target for the 4 that Sporting KC had. 3 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Sporting KC had. And possession-wise, 64% possession compared to 36% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. And again, I know Sporting KC fans will be very upset in terms of the call that kind of go against them. But again, when you look at the balance of play, this was really a game that, as I said earlier, it was a game about who can actually be the more clinical side in terms of just the numerous missed chances that we saw in this game. And the answer is the Houston Dynamo. They were just a little bit more clinical, able to put away that only chances that they need, and that's all they need to move on into the Western Conference Final. And now it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if they're going to face a familiar foe in the Western Conference Final, because not only the fact that once again it feels like whenever the Dynamo gets into the playoffs, you know that they're going to go deep. They always have a history of being in the playoffs and go deep into competition, and we're seeing it once again, and especially a Ben Olsen led team. Again, I can't tell you how much I give credit to Ben Olsen, and what he's doing is something that I'm pretty sure nobody would have expected that. And somewhere in the nation's capital, I'm pretty sure all DC fans are pretty disgusted. The fact that not only they're disgusted that Ben Olsen was let go of their club, though rightfully so, because things were getting a little toxic during the end of his tenure with DC. Why the heck did he not show that with DC United, and why isn't working with the Houston Dynamo? Even though when you look at both of those teams with the way that they build the roster isn't really that much similar to each other whatsoever. But again, all credit has to be with Ben Olsen guiding this team in the Western Conference Final. And again, for Sporting KC, it's another year of frustration in the playoffs. Like this team, again, besides what happened in 2013, you can say that this team has had a long legacy of failure of potentially move on into the next round. And even though I know playing against Houston is not an easy opponent, especially with the way that Dynamo has done very well this season in the playoffs, and obviously they unfortunately will be one of those many teams that will file their victim flags in terms of them having a long rest that really kill their momentum. The bottom line is in the playoffs, it's a game of inches and it's a game about moments, and they just weren't able to capitalize it, and Houston just weren't able to do so, and that's why they're moving on into the Western Conference Final. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at this review. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this game. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.